Let's talk about Bully. Much better. As you can see, I have no shortage of merchandise by one of my favorite artists, Kanye West, or as I should say, the artist formerly known as Kanye West. Yay. So, let's talk Bully. I am very satisfied with this album. Also, welcome to the first episode of Views from the Drought Brow. It's the show where I'm going to talk about music, my experiences with music, recording music, playing music, particularly from the lens of a drummer, future multi-instrumentalist. Kanye West is one of my all-time favorite artists, as I'm sure many people can attest to. He is one of my most loved inspirations regarding the way he thinks, the way he approaches the craft of the musical arts, and the courage he has to be himself authentically. It's something that I struggled with growing up, which was, battling self-esteem. Kanye has said before that if you're a fan of his, you're really a fan of yourself. And that's how I feel listening to this album. This album is, I want to avoid going the route that other people are probably going to go down. To me, this isn't quite Kanye being back. A lot of people are going to say that this is Kanye when he's true to form. Oh, he's just like old Kanye. He's got himself back. But to me, this album really is this abstract apex that he's reached. It's not that he's like producing on the caliber that he's done before. And that's not to say that anything bad against this production, because we're going to get into how much I like this album and his production. But to me, it's not quite like the heights that he's reached, I guess, experimentally. I just got back from a trip from my parents' house, and I've been spending the whole week with family, getting into creative flow, not just YouTube, but with all of my other projects, as I am also a musician. And I got to listen to this album twice on the road. And I also tuned into the live stream. Now, I wasn't as focused during the live stream, but I've been really excited is the wrong word. I've been anticipating this album, but for many different reasons. We're coming right off the heels of all the controversy, and I've been curious about how authentic he's going to be. And listening to this album was refreshing because I think he had the wherewithal within him to understand the level of authenticity that was required for this project. He didn't really shy away, but he also didn't go overboard, which is kind of out of the norm for him. But yeah, let's go ahead and go track by track. So starting with King, this song, dude, it knocked my socks off. This song is a great opener. It is so industrial, and the juxtaposition of the sample that it starts off with that metallic grinding sound that almost is like a ringtone, but for your whole body. In a good way. It sent a jolt through my system. And this to me is like a refined power, you know? It's almost like the anti-power. Power is all about the bravado and giving into it, but King is like years removed from that song. And all of the history is baked into this song since My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy came out. And to me, I like how restrained the song is. There are similar lyrics to Power, talk about the bravado and all that, but it feels more focused in a weird way. Or maybe not focused, but chill. Is it possible for Kanye to be chill with the beat like that? But yet, it kind of feels like he's comfortable with that beat. Oh, some of the highlights for me were Mama's Favorite. My gosh, when I heard that in the car for the first time, because that was one of the songs that I hadn't listened to. So it gave me goosebumps, man. Like, that song is just beautiful. And I'm like, thank you, Ye, for making that song. And it makes you think of your own mother and how much you love your mother. And I'm lucky to have a mother that supports all my endeavors and my dreams, really. It really makes you empathize with what you must feel to lose someone like that. But Mama's Favorite, the closer, this one here, my gosh, that made me emotional, dude. I saw people getting emotional for, let's see, All the Love, which, granted, that is a beautiful song, but for me, it was the closer. And that was the perfect closer, to be honest, for the album. Highs and Lows is really cool, but it's unfortunate that the sample was not cleared, probably for some BS reason. Father is growing on me. Okay, I didn't really resonate with the Travis influence, but after viewing the music video, it is like growing on me. I think the music video is actually extremely tasteful, and as a Catholic, I was nervous at first when I saw thumbnail and saw the first few seconds. Kanye's been all over the place with his relationship with God lately. And so I didn't want him to be stepping on any toes, especially if he's trying to get in the good grace of the music industry again, which I have no idea if that's a plan of his. But, we all know that the music industry is not quite a fan of Jesus Christ. So you can see all of the blatant disrespect that gets thrown at Jesus in many other artists' music videos, which I'm not going to name, but if you know. And so I was nervous at first, but this music video is really cool. I really want to unpack the symbolism. And I think the symbolism of that video is actually a lot more clear and cut than what I really want to talk about, which is the symbolism of the wrestling ring. When he first showed the aesthetics for Bully that he was toying with that video of his son in the wrestling ring, I thought it was cool. But, since we didn't understand the full scope of the album, what it would become, it was sort of, it passed through one ear and out the other, I guess, for me. But sitting in and watching the live stream for the LA show really got me thinking. And it suddenly clicked in my mind what he's doing with the whole boxing / wrestling aesthetic direction for the visuals of this art. And I have not really poked around too much with other people's thoughts. So this is sort of my unadulterated thoughts. I've only really watched 2 people talk about this album so far. Shout out to Izzy. Izzy made a great video about Kanye this week. But for me, I love how monochrome these visuals are. And it's a lot less visceral than the monochrome that we got from Donda. Donda was extremely masculine. We have the high contrast of black and silver. Especially when being at the listening party, I was at the red outfit one, the first one at Mercedes-Benz, and I was at the second one at Mercedes-Benz. And still to this day, I think the Donda rollout is the best album rollout of all time, not just for him, but really of any artist. And, I'm not as old as other people that have really seen the history of American music. in the past century. But to me, like the rollout for Donda was unparalleled. Living in Mercedes Benz is something like unthinkable. Yet he did it. And the performance art, so many people have like commented and analyzed what Ye's influences were for making that performance art. But I've never experienced anything like that since then. And I found it interesting how laid back he's been with the bully imagery. But it suddenly dawned on me that looking at these people wrestling, I was suddenly aware of how many there were in the ring. I mean, I didn't count them, but typically when I would think of boxing or wrestling, I'm not thinking of like a bunch of people enclosed in that space. And then I realized what a boxing ring really was. It's sort of a bubble. It's a stage. Okay. But it's also a cage. They call it the cage. So you can see what's happening, but there's this thin veil, this thin boundary separating the athlete or performer in the case of wrestling, which I don't know if that's like bad to say. I mean, I'm not really into wrestling, so I don't really know what they call themselves. But there is a thin boundary between the audience and the performer. And I find that really inspiring because Kanye, out of all of these celebrities, has had a very rough relationship with audience perception in terms of how much knowledge the average person knows about his life.
Somebody, you're not gonna say everything the right way, but it got to a point where y'all ain't gonna just keep running, stop calling me bizarre and impressed for all these years. I got to a point, how many more times y'all gonna call me crazy? How many more times y'all gonna give me fake medication that makes me fat off of a misdiagnosis when I'm really have slight signs of autism from the car accident? But then y'all gave me, you say, whatever, just give them that bipolar medication. Y'all try to kill the superheroes, but we here, we alive. You know what I'm saying?
Seriously, I don't want to fight with you, man. I'm just asking.
You don't talk to me, right?
But you didn't tell me.
What you're trying to do is get me in trouble. So I step off, you have to pay you like $250,000.
No.
Being hounded by paparazzi and all that. So, and we know Kanye. He's been no stranger to voicing his opinion about that. But it means something different now. The controversy that he found himself in the past year/2 years was unlike anything else that he's ever dealt with. And I relate the cage and stage to him feeling constantly elevated like he has been, but also it's a commentary on his relationship with who's watching his life. And I kind of want to go down all of the different, stage designs that he's performed with. I mean, the iconic one for me is still the Life of Pablo stage. I mean, incredible stage design. And then when you get the Donda stuff, it's like he knows how to concentrate or focus the audience perception to himself or whatever character or version he's playing. And his design throughout all these years has been sort of about the stage. What stage is he going to be on? Is the stage going to be elevated above everyone where you have to look up? Is the stage going to be literally stark white for the length of a football field? Is the stage going to be the circle and it's zoomed in on this hyper abstract or like hyper realistic, really, caricature of his living quarters, right? Transparency is a motif, but also heights are a motif. Like he's a figure that you can't reach, but even though you can't reach him, somehow you have access to his innermost being. And I think that leads us to the bully stage. suddenly we've had so much access to that innermost being that we are now seeing the different versions of Kanye West. And Izzy made a really good video about how Kanye has been shedding what he understands about himself and becoming Ye is really his abstracted self. The abstract sense of self that's beneath everything. And for the bully stage, I realized that all of the figures that were wrestling, because of the monochrome, almost seem similar. They all have their own unique differences, but the monochrome blends everything together. And all the shots, how they alternate, almost like paintbrush strokes. And so you're sort of like having you're sort of having a dazed experience. You're seeing zoomed in shots, wide shots. But all these figures are similar. And the way that their masks shine in the light, because it's monochrome, all these silver masks, I got the sense that these are sort of his characters. These are his identities. And they're all battling, which is really interesting. And the thing about wrestling is that the story is written. Boxing is a one-to-one sort of translation for the modern era of the Roman Colosseum. And a lot of people are tempted to think of football that way because it's such a one-to-one translation, because there's a literal Colosseum and, thousands of people show up to watch people battle out. But it's a game, really. It's a game with the ball. Boxing is a fight, it's about making another man bleed. And to me, that's a little bit more of a direct passing the torch of what was happening in the Colosseum. Now, wrestling is the inversion of that. It is the illusion of conflict for entertainment. And like I said, with wrestling, the story is written. It's a performance. It's a physical performance, but everything's exaggerated. And someone had to write the story, and someone writes who wins. So, who is writing the story of Kanye's identities in Flux? Is it God writing the story about which version of him is going to rise to prominence? Which Kanye West is going to rise to prominence? And I think this is about Ye rising to prominence, but Kanye being unsure still of who Ye really is. Is Ye all of him, or is Ye the one him that is surrounded by the many versions of him? And like I said, who's writing the story? Is it the audience? Is it any of his past lovers? Is it him? Is it God? Is it then those people? Who is going to rise to victory? Who is Kanye? Who is Ye? And that's what I love about this album. It is almost this reserved look at himself, like he's looking at himself in a mirror. But it's not narcissistic in a way that like other projects have been. He's sort of just, he's out of this cocoon, but he doesn't yet know like what he looks like. It's that stage after a caterpillar has gone through that metamorphosis, but they breach the cocoon, and it takes time for their wings to grow. Or not grow, but wings to show the splendor of the colors. So that monochrome really is not just a cool aesthetic, but it's helping, I think, communicate this idea of identities in flux. So back to what I really like. I liked Bully is great. I love Bully. That beat is so fire. I Can't Wait is one of my favorites. So Mama's favorite, I Can't Wait. This one here and King are probably my top 4. Now, This Much is a fun flow. Oh, also, I'm not really that big of a fan of like going back to old Kanye. So songs, there are like 2 songs on here. that I think people will resonate because it's like old Kanye vibes, and I like them, but I'm more of a fan of new Ye. I also love Preacher Man. Preacher Man is really cool. Oh, and Sisters and Brothers is deep in a weird way. Like that song is not as eventful, but I really like it. Again, I like how he's talking about all these things that he's been through the past 2 years, but in a way it feels right. You know, I didn't really like Vultures that much because I felt like he was giving in to the darker aspects of his psyche and his lust. But this feels mature. This album feels more mature. I know this is a hot take too, and I don't want to get like canceled for it, but I'm a big fan of
this song.
And
I'm the villain.
I think it was extremely avant-garde. I'm really glad to see that like he didn't include those for Bully. Like those songs are more like him dealing with very abstract ideas about the boundaries of like the global citizen and their consciousness and the archetypes that are involved in the psyche of a modern man. That's really my interpretation. In the music industry, you can blaspheme Jesus Christ, who is God. And you can worship Satan or Baal. But, you know, like, if you talk about that guy, that crap hits the fan and pitchforks are raised. And I think Ye was extremely intelligent for picking up that symbol and that person was really more deeply embedded as a villain in American psyche, or really the global citizen psyche, rather than literally the ultimate villain, which is Satan. So all in all, Bully is fantastic. I'm going to be listening to these songs quite a bit, I think. And I'm glad that he sort of released it. You know, I like this dialed back release structure for him. This album is so weirdly introspective. The production is cool, and as a percussionist, I really like some of the beats that he's been doing. I love the way he weaves around the beat with what's that song? Beauty and the Beast. But yeah, what are your favorite songs from Bully? And, you know, if you agree or think any of my ideas are really cool, let me know. I'm a huge Kanye fan, huge Ye fan. And yeah, Bully by Ye. Welcome to Views from the Drum Throne. All right.
Teflon Don, I'm feeling bulletproof. Teflon Yeezy, I'm feeling bulletproof. Saving the world, Superman to the boot. Look at the bird.